Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining on time. A warm welcome to all of you for the webinar on data-driven urban mobility, enhancing customer experience in Europe. I am Namrita Bangia, Senior Director at Global Mass Transit, and I will be your moderator for this very exciting session. We're thrilled to have participants joining us from across the world. Thank you for being here. As cities continue to grow, the need for smarter, data-informed transport solution becomes more urgent than ever. Today, we'll hear from three remarkable experts who are leading innovation in data-driven urban mobility across Europe. So I'm pleased to welcome our speakers for today, Gemma Schepers, Project Manager, Smart Mobility at the City of Amsterdam, Dr. Christian Schlosser, Head of Unit Digital Transformation of the Infrastructure Sector, BIM, at the German Federal Ministry for Digital and Transport, and Xavier Sanyer Matias, Head of the Mobility Service at Metropolitan Transport Authority of Barcelona. Thank you to our speakers for taking time out, preparing the presentations, and for joining us today. Before we begin with the presentations, a few housekeeping notes for our attendees. This session will run for approximately 1 hour. Each speaker will present for 15 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session at the end. All the attendees can submit their questions anytime using the Q&A or the chat box. I'll be reviewing them and posing a few to our speakers at the end. With that, we are ready to begin with our first presentation. We will first hear from Gemma Schepers, as I mentioned, Project Manager, Smart Mobility at the City of Amsterdam. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Gemma, and we can have, Gemma, we can have your slides up so you can start sharing the screen. Gemma's work for the Innovation Office, CTO of the City of Amsterdam. She works with short-term experiments in living labs cooperatively with citizens and market parties. And currently, she's committed to the digital transition in the field of smart mobility with a strong focus on cybersecurity and secure data exchange between all stakeholders in the smart mobility ecosystem. In our email exchange, one of the points, Gemma, that you mentioned that stayed with me, that you believe that mobility generates freedom and does not stop at borders. And to create a European connected and green mobility network, we must connect the local networks and move together towards a new way of multimodal travel. And so, of course, in that process, mobility data is vital. But like you mentioned, mobility data also entails risks, especially if we start linking data sets on a European scale. And so I really like this point in your biography that you had shared, that you're committed to ensuring privacy and security in this transition. We are very much looking forward to your presentation, Gemma. Over to you. We can't hear you, Gemma.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Share. Let me see if I can make it a presentation modus. Is it in presentation modus?
Not yet.
Not yet. Should be now. I never know how it works. Now it should be here. Yes. Is it now in presentation modus?
Yes, but we can see your notes as well.
I can see my, oh, I don't even know what, sorry. So yeah, let me see. So I go back. I do it in this way because otherwise we're taking it too long. Just
I can have my team, Gemma, I can have my team share the presentation and you can.
Yeah, can you do that? That's fine. Yeah. I can go through that. If you share it, I stop sharing my screen. And then if you share it, I will start talking. So I work for the innovation team in the City of Amsterdam. We are a broad team. We are a big team. We are now at this moment with 120 people in only innovation team. And I think that's very interesting for a city to have such a big team only working and focusing on innovation, which means that we have a lot of quality in our team and different topics like AI development, project management, UX designers. We have data analysts. We have focus on different topics within the city. which we really try to use the approach for innovation in the city. And we have the freedom to test and to try and to pilot and to fail. And that really helps to learn lessons and to keep innovating and to really see the trends in the future and to see what trends are coming here and how do we deal with the trends. And if we go back to the mobility, which I'm working in for already, I think is 7 years. Mobility is going to be a topic for years, and it will be interesting all the time because everyone is like constantly on a move. You go, we go to work, we go to school, we go to see family. We're moving. We're all the time on the move, and we're traveling not only in your city, but everyone is traveling around. And we see in big cities the trend that there's a density in cities. So what do? How are you going to solve your very scarce public space? That means that you need to connect your digital public space to your physical public space. Because if you have more insights in how people are traveling and all the technology that we use, you can better plan the city that you're living in. So we set up the Smart Mobility Program for the city of Amsterdam. We're running it for a few years already. And we really try to build a bridge between physical and public space. If I can go to the next slide. The trends that we are seeing, the city is growing a lot. It's a lot of cities in Europe growing. The city of Amsterdam is growing with 100,000 people in the same area. So you also get all 100,000 people moving. So you have an increase of mobility. You have a lot of pressure on the public space because people also want to enjoy the public space and go to a park. What we also see is that, especially in Amsterdam, we have like a really bad air. So if you live in Amsterdam, you smoke six cigarettes a day. We try to really get that air pollution better, and now you smoke around 4.5 cigarettes a day. So it became better during the years and everything that we did. And how we get insight into how the city is how people moving in the city, we try to really digitalize everything and use a lot of data to get insights on what's happening on the street. So we are really do a lot of data sharing, data collecting, and data analysis. And I think if we go to the next slide. So in the city of Amsterdam, if we are not acting, well, the city will be extremely too full, too big, not comfortable to move around. For example, at this moment, when I'm biking to my work, there are so many bikes that I can really not really move. So it's like a bike traffic jam at this moment. That's a very interesting thing that we're happening at this moment. So you want to build new solutions, how you can do that. And if we go to the next slide. So what we want to do, what we try to move towards to become a really innovative city, testing new mobilities, try to really reshape public space for the future. And therefore also we look at the trends in mobility. We see the trends that's coming into the next 5 years till 10 years, like people getting older, we have more people living in the city, we have a climate change, we have like inflation, and what all those trends are doing in the city, we try to adapt that. If I go to the next slide. And if we really zoom into mobility, we try to get a better, we want to get the car out of the city, and we want to make sure everyone can use new mobility forms for logistics, for private use. And we do it together with the industry, and also we digitalize everything. So we use also a lot of digital tools to make it more comfortable for people and also for logistic companies to move into the city to better plan everything. And that's a big challenge, and that's a challenge everyone actually in Europe has. If I go to the next slide. If we focus a little bit on the data part, because the data is a very interesting topic, we want to digitalize everything, but you don't want to know all the data from everyone. So what we now try to do, we try to do already for a few years. We want to build a very strong data position in Amsterdam. That's not that easy as we think it is. What we think is very important in the city of Amsterdam, we have values for our citizens, protecting privacy, ethical principles. We want everyone to feel comfortable in the city. We want to have a safe city. We want to have a clean city. All those kind of values we are taking into frameworks, how we're going to collect the data. And then if we have the data, we want to move that into our traffic management systems. Sometimes we succeed, but we also fail. And we also try to nudge, I don't know if everyone understands the word nudge, but we try to really influence people into the city, how they can move when we want to create awareness, as well on moving towards the city, but also on digitalization and ethical privacy and security principles, how we deal with this kind of data. The reason that we do it, if we go to the next slide, so if we become a very data-driven city, you have all kind of connection points everywhere in the city. Everyone is using their mobile phone. We have cameras everywhere. We have sensors everywhere in the city. Even drones are coming up now with the cameras. They can watch you all the time. But we want to become a city that is going to be a surveillance state. You don't want to be locked into all your data, and that is very important. You don't want to be rated being a citizen by your government. You don't want to be followed by your government. You don't want that your government knows, hey, Gemma lives in this area, but she visits all the time the snack bar, and then she also never goes to the gym, but she's also go to the bar, and you make a profile. That's not what you want. I want to be free in my city, but I want to have the freedom to get insights on how I can travel the most efficient way. So we try to balance all the time on how we collect all the data and how we make sure it's still protecting the privacy of your citizens and you're not building profiles from your citizens. And that is a delicate balance. And we have a pretty strong privacy incentive in the city of Amsterdam. So we go all the way to every project that we run on data. We go through all the procedures on privacy. But it's becoming more complex during the next years because we are collecting so much data. We're building layer on layer on layer. So we need to be very careful with that. And also, it could be that you're making not always the right assumptions and analyses on your data. So making conclusions is always very, we need to be aware all the time that that can have like a little risk in it. If I go to the next slide. But then, for example, so how it's going to be look like? What do we do with the data on the mobility part in the city? So we're doing a few things. So we want to get insights in the city on how people are moving. We also want to make policy with all the data, and we try to enforce. So you want to create awareness and saying, hey, you can go to this area or not, and you can park there. You also want to make sure you give people the right direction with a route planner, for example. And you want to also, if people are not doing what is needed in the city, you want to enforce them or fine them, for example. That's also why we're using all this kind of digital tools. If I go to the next slide. So I have an example on how we use this data in one specific area in the city of Amsterdam. We have the where the Ajax football is playing is the arena. It's an area where we have 5 events locations, big events locations. So we have the football, but we also have 2 concerts halls that people can go. So sometimes it's a very full area with more than 3 or 4 big events. this is a really good test area for the city of Amsterdam, how we can get insights in all the traffic flows, how people are going. So we use a combinations of cameras at train stations, but also on crowd management systems, also on information from trains, also on information from the event location. And then also we use also the weather. It's always interesting. People travel different when the weather is rainy or sunny. We use the parking, all the information of the parking, and we know where people are coming from in the Netherlands to visit the event, and we try to nudge them. And then we make a real-time dashboard so we can, well, if something happens, we can act upon it. So we use this kind of real-time dashboard where we are connecting all this kind of data, and we try to have it pretty privacy-proof and anonymize every data that we have from the cameras, and we go through all the procedures. And here you can see it's like a little example how we try to do it and how it looks like. If I go to the next slide, what we also do, I think this is an example that's being used in every country. So it's a route planner. If you go with your public transport, or if you go with your travel with your public transport, you can see if it's busy or not. So we use that data, we collect that data, and we try to really transfer it to user-friendly experience for people and advising them on how you can travel the most efficient way. The next example that I have, I think that is the last example. I think that is an interesting, it's a funny way that we also use social media. If I can go to the next slide. In the Netherlands, we always have, can I have the next slide? Yeah. In the Netherlands, we always have King's Day. King's Day is a big day in the Netherlands. The city is packed full with people, but you want to manage everyone in the city. So we have a lot of sensors in the city which measure how busy the city is during the day. During that day, we keep that on the dashboards, and what we do directly is we try to influence people that are in the city through WhatsApp, through Messenger, through Instagram. Hey, this is a busy area between this and this time. Maybe you can go to a different area. So you try also to communicate with your people into your city how to move to, well, when there's a really big event. This is a few examples that we use data, where we use data with all kinds of sensors and all kinds of different data on mobility, and we retranslate that into a practical way of communicating and working with people in the city to make the city more livable and comfortable. So basically you go from your public space that is people are traveling, you try to digitalize everything, you collect kinds of data, you try to get more insights, and then with all that insights that you have, you try to manage the city, and you have ideas how you want to manage the city, and then you try to give that way how you want to manage your city back to your citizens through this kind of like social media or route planners or things like that. So we go to the whole procedure from getting insights, collecting data, analyze it, transforming it to policy or to how you want the city to be look like, and then you want to really communicate with your citizens. And I think that's a big process, how it looks like for a city. And I hope this gives a little bit information from the city perspective, because it's very broad. We can deep dive into to how do we collect data. I can talk an hour about that. But then I think if you have this whole broad picture, you see how we try to really do the best for people in the city to make it livable and safe. So I hope this gives a little bit of an insight on how we work in Amsterdam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gemma. That was an insightful presentation and how the data is being used in the city of Amsterdam, positively being used. Thank you for sharing those insights. Next, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Christian Schlosser, who leads the digital transformation of the infrastructure sector and BIM unit at the German Federal Ministry for Digital and Transport. Christian brings a national level perspective on how data is transforming planning, delivery, and performance of infrastructure across Germany. Welcome, Christian. The virtual floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, now I have to find the.
I can have my team share the presentation for you.
Okay. But we all set now, isn't it? Okay. Do you have it?
We have your presentation. So
no, I mean, is it now on the screen?
no, we don't see it. We don't see it from your screen. No.
Okay. Okay, here we are.
Yes, yes.
Okay, it's full screen mode now, isn't it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so thank you. As you indicated, corresponding to the very interesting picture from Amsterdam, I tried to give like a summary picture from recent experiences and examples from Germany. We essentially started out in 2017 with a program to trying to encourage really all kinds of actors to get inspired to come up with data innovations for mobility and transport. That is really now in its 7th year or so. And at the time, in 2017, this data strategy or data innovation strategy for transport had several components. So geo information, and I'm just sort of giving you a short overview. Geo information, then a grant program, which I will also draw the project examples from in the coming slides. Then at the same time also open data and an open data portal. It's now in its second iteration. It's called Mobility Data Space or Mobilität. So it links into European efforts or regulations to avail transport data and mass transit data. Then at the same time, we also engaged in outreach activities like hackathons and data runs on different subsectors of transport. And finally, we also try to bring in data from satellite, the Copernicus program. So point I want to make, these efforts to catalyze inventions like, for instance, the ones in Amsterdam, but of course in the German setting, were really set in the context of an overall strategy to bring digitalization to the transport and mobility sector. Yeah, again, this is just a snapshot. Really, the message is we try to bring in all kinds of actors beyond sort of the traditional transport community, research, but also civil society, companies, and then all levels of government in Germany, which is, as you know, a federal state. So we have states, local governments, and the national federal level. Yeah. And just to also give you the context, what was coming from the data side and the digitalization side, what were our focus areas? So data access, then encourage new data-based applications, software innovations, but also come up with new data generation methods for the transport sector, and finally also data governance. So exploring what are the economic impacts or the gains, so to speak. So, and you really picked it up with your seminar, saying, okay, how can we improve customer experience and user experience? And that digital focus really was applied to all topics of the ministry. So like surface transport, but also cycling and walking, mass transit, and also autonomous driving, and all the way to logistics. So we really, with the data focus, addressed the entire range of transport themes. Okay, so now from the sort of overall thematic and conceptual context to specific project examples. And that step in preparing for the seminar, so it was a little bit of a challenge, because I noticed since 2017 in that program, they funded like 600 research and development projects. And I tried to give you a snapshot, and my presentation is really meant to be like a springboard to look at the projects yourself, because there is such a rich variety, but most of them, or all of them actually, are available as a short one-page project snapshot on the internet. It's in German, however, but I think with the nowadays advanced online translation devices and facilities, there should be no problem if you link into that project site to generate the specific keywords and content into English also. So as I said, the descriptions are only available in German, but it should be no problem to translate them. So as I said, there were about 600 projects, and for today's seminar, I selected on 3 themes: public transport, intermodality, and walking and cycling. And again, on the slides, this is just an example for about 40 to 50 projects we have supported with grants since 2017. So again, as I said, just to give you a snapshot, on the public transport side, we did fund projects that try to bring in artificial intelligence for better user information. We supported projects on flexible demand routes or so, so using data from users or from other sources to create flex or support transport operators to offer flexible routes. And another specific aspect or important aspect was to assist visually disabled users, so to provide like acoustic guidance or both entering vehicles, but also inside terminal buildings also. And then another aspect was, for instance, to come up with methods to do automatic passenger counts and draw in different data methods. So for instance, what really turned out in recent years, that the cell phone data from the cell phone operators is a very important source of data, both for like road traffic jams and so on, but also for public transport. So this is an example where we had like a data source from outside the transportation sector, but if you merge it digitally with, for instance, maps or with other data, you can really come up with very valuable solutions and conclusions for operating transit as well. So those 4 or 5 pictures stand really for as an example for another 40 or 50 projects on the theme of public transport. Next aspect was walking and cycling. In that thematic area, one aspect was traffic safety. So for instance, to have data innovations to recognize pedestrians in traffic lights, or optimize road crossings using artificial intelligence, but also, for instance, to use sensors of cell phone data to detect the quality of bicycle paths or so. So you have you collect data, and then you have some software or some a program that collects data from users participating in this program and then sends a message to local governments. And in one case, we had a very nice succession that initially this NGO started out on their own, and in the second project iteration, they were able to enter into a partnership with the city of Berlin. So there was an immediate link from research and projects into deployment on the ground. Okay, so next, finally, intermodality. Again, if you want to establish better intermodal connections, I think digitalization and data also has an important role to play. One example on this slide is, for instance, to optimize like car sharing or sharing or intermodal connections between trains and private cars or so. Another example is like micromobility, i.e. Electric scooters, and establish or optimize seamless options in terms of using public transport and these new options. And yeah, the last one is, for instance, using sensors and, for instance, Bluetooth methods of cars and pedestrians and cyclists to avoid critical or dangerous traffic situations. So again, there is a rich body of different applications to enhance either efficiency, to provide better public transport, but also to increase road safety or safe road safety within cities at crossings or other dangerous spots. So those were sort of a snapshot really on those research projects. We can always dive into specific, or you can do some internet search on your own. And then finally, in 2021 or so, there was also a program established to help local governments and transport operators directly in terms of the deployment of new solutions. And this is just a small map. Again, you can research the project list behind and maybe even contact the partners if you find an interesting project. And this is just a small map depicting the local governments participating or getting a grant out of that deployment program. And again, the goal was climate protection, but also better health, as well as making mass transit more attractive and transport operations on the ground more efficient. Next, as I indicated, this is again just a snapshot. Maybe the bottom line is that if you want to encourage and move on in terms of digitalization and in a way motivate transport operators to enter the digital and data world, it's always good to have networking and knowledge management and outreach activities. We had like hackathons and pitches and so on. And that was also a very worthwhile undertaking, because we managed to get like rail companies providing their data and sharing them with startups and university groups or students or other people, sort of being 24 hours in a room or in a hall and trying to come up with new solutions for real life problems based on the data provided by these partners. Yeah, next and finally, as I said, I also wanted to give you a snapshot, and for the international community in 2020, we have established like a seminar series corresponding to a national seminar series in German, but we have, when Germany had the EU presidency in 2020, we initiated like an EU workshop series in English, so everybody was able to participate. And here again, I depicted a link and indicating the past seminars, so you can read it up on the PDF after the seminar. And this again gives you a snapshot on the topics addressed at the EU level. And if you click on the website, and you can download the programs of those specific topics, so you don't even have to translate them. And again, it's just an opportunity to maybe discover solutions developed elsewhere. So all the seminars were always drawn from the EU community or international community. So they were not just those German projects only, but they were really a European or international exchange. And if you click on one of those seminars on that website, you may even, if you find an interesting solution, contact the person presenting at the time. Yeah, finally, so that's from my side. I think I've covered my 15 minutes or so, but I understand we also wanted to have some room for discussion and questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian, for that fantastic overview. Yes, we're moving on to our final speaker. Our final speaker for today is Xavier Sanyer Matias, Head of Mobility Service at the Metropolitan Transport Authority of Barcelona. In this role, he leads the coordination, drafting, and implementation of the Mobility Master Plan for the Barcelona Metropolitan region. The current plan comprises over 86 measures organized into 10 strategic areas, including initiatives related to innovative mobility solutions, big data planning, and the development of AI tools to enhance mobility planning and management. Xavier, looking forward to your insights. We can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. I will try to share my screen because I am not a familiar user of Zoom. Let's see. Let's see, because I'm trying to find it, but I cannot. Sorry.
I can have my team member run the presentation.
I think that now.
Yes.
You can see my presentation, isn't it? Okay, yes, now. So, okay, first of all, I would like to thank you for this kind invitation. On behalf of ATM, it want to say it's a pleasure for us to take part of a session like this. We hope to share our experience and learn from the other speakers. I have learned a lot about this previous presentations, and also from the contribution of the speakers. My personal experience in the field of the big data and artificial intelligence is being developed primarily from the perspective of an end user, of a user for planning and for promoting solutions that are going to be implemented by our internal teams from our different departments. Okay, so maybe I am offering a different perspective compared with previous speakers, and it's more focused on the practical application and institutional needs. I think that first of all, well, this is who are going to develop my presentation. First of all, who we are and what we do. It's important to understand what I'm going to explain. The approach of ATM about artificial intelligence. Here I must be honest with you, we are in a preliminary steps because we are still thinking about what we are going to do. We are going to share what we are planning to do in the next 2 years. We have more experience about big data and planning, so we can give you a lot of experience or examples that we are doing, and we can explain you the first 2 cases that we are going to implement about artificial intelligence in the ATM of Barcelona. First of all, what we do and who we are. So we are a public transport authority for the Metropolitan region of Barcelona. We are, I don't know, the 4th, 5th metropolitan region in Europe by number of inhabitants. The ATM is a consortium, a public consortium composed by the government of Catalonia, the Barcelona City Council, and the Barcelona metropolitan area, and working together to ensure the coordinated, efficient, and sustainable mobility across the region, that we have a very different territory with areas with a high density and at the same time areas with a very, very low density. Okay, ATM plays a key role in defining and implementing integrated transport solutions. Here you can see one of our main responsibilities, mobility planning at the regional and metropolitan level. We are responsible to implement the mobility master plan and the infrastructure master plan. At the same time, we are responsible for the integrated fare system. So our system allows to use different operators, as many other cities in Europe, with the same ticket. We are coordinating the public transport services. One of our main responsibilities is the funding allocation and financial oversight for the public transport operators. We are promoting sustainable mobility solutions. For example, we are coordinating the implementation of low emission zones outside of the core metropolitan region of Barcelona, in these areas of less density. But it's mandatory in these areas as well to implement low emission zones in municipalities over 20,000 inhabitants. We are responsible for the data collection and analysis from the public transport, checkout system or our contactless system. And we are collaborating very close with local and regional stakeholders to implement these new solutions and these yes, to plan the mobility. For us, this vision is very important because sometimes what we have seen is that, as I mentioned before, in our area, we have different realities. We have a very innovative cities as Barcelona and other cities next to Barcelona with a lot of living labs, new solutions. But in this areas more with less density, more rural, next to the Pyrenees, it's more difficult to implement these solutions. And one of the roles of the Metropolitan Transport Authority is to have in consideration this to have the same opportunities in the different territories. So we are trying to transfer the knowledge to these maybe other players that we have to have the same opportunities in all the regions. How we are facing our artificial intelligence strategy. We start the reflection late 2024, so some months ago. So as you can see, it's very, very fresh. And we are implementing the preliminary steps and the pilot projects during this year, and we are going to implement and refine the results during the next 2 years from our strategy that we have already defined. The core pillars of this strategy are the sustainability, ethics, security, and responsibility. For us, it's very important. We are a public body, and we must consider this as a core pillar. And where we are going to apply the artificial intelligence as a decision support tool. In a process of automatization, we have a lot of very repeated tasks that we consider that we can automatize. So it's very important for us. And at the same time, and maybe in my working days, the most important thing is innovation applied in the mobility planning and the management of the mobility. Okay, so we are trying to implement this kind of solution on this. One of the things that we have in mind all time that this strategy must be a human in the loop model. So artificial intelligence support us, but decisions remain in humans. Okay, and we are defining our governance model where we are going to create an artificial intelligence committee, and we are going to reinforce legal and cybersecurity aspects. Okay. So why we do this? Because we have a lot of mobility data, and we are coordinating a lot of areas, as I mentioned before, because we want to foster innovation and improve services and decision making, because we want to have a clear strategy with principles, application areas, and use cases, and because we want to ensure that our strategy is aligned with environmental, social, and financial sustainability goals that is essential for us. As you can see, we are in a preliminary steps. I will explain you 2 cases that we are developing in different levels, but this is not new for us because regarding big data, we have a large experience. First of all, because we are responsible for the ticketing system, so we are collecting a lot of information from our system. So this is one of the main data that we have, validations, but at the same time, we're responsible for our route planning tool and the system to help the management of the bus operations. So we have travel times information, vehicle positions, occupancy in the vehicles, delays, detours, service modifications, all these data that we are working during the last years. Now we pretend to match big data with artificial intelligence, and we consider that this will be a data acceleration to make faster, smarter, and evidence-based decisions. And what we want to do in this planning role that I am developing is to change from a descriptive way of work that we are doing right now to a predictive way of work. Some applications regarding big data, how we match historical and real-time data integration to have real-time or to analyze the data while we are following the real-time operation. Studies for improving the public transport. For example, now we are trying to understand people, how are they using the mobility hubs. This with the new contactless system that we have implemented 2-3 years ago, and now we can know people where they are living, because we have when they are applying for the contactless card, 60% of people, they have a personalized card because they apply for what we say plastic support. 10% use the app, and about 30% we don't know information because they use a cardboard card that we don't have the personal information. But with this sample of 60% of people, we know where they are living, because when they are applying, they say, okay, this is my residence. And we can analyze, for example, in the slot between 6 in the morning at 8 in the morning, where they are doing the first validation. In this case, we can connect this information, and we can see that maybe there are people that they take their cars and they are moving to other cities because they have more frequent services, because they have more parking facilities, because we don't know why, but we are trying to understand this, so we can see the areas of influence of the park and ride facilities, to try to understand our commercial actions, or where do we have to increase the number of parking spaces or whatever. These big data are feeding as well our model demand, so we can understand where people are moving. We can do scenario simulations about testing new services, intermodal hubs, with some example like I mentioned right now. We want to develop digital twins. We are working with other actors in the region to develop these tools to make more efficient our decisions. And of course, we are connecting with Internet of Things. For example, we are missing information when people change from one metro line to another, because we don't have a checking again. So it's a free of you don't have to checking again. You don't have to tap your car. So we are missing this information. We are trying to analyze between the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi connections that we have in the stations. And of course, all this information could be part of the integrated mobility service platform that we are developing right now. It will be our mass application. Okay. And just to share with you the last one cases that we are doing right now, applying artificial intelligence, is smart customer support. We are going to create like virtual agents to help our users to find the nearest customer service. Some of the tasks that that people ask to us must be doing in our offices or in our customer services, because we need to have contact with our customers. And the first thing that a lot of people don't know where they can go, and our service points, they don't offer the same kind of activities or solutions to the customers. So the first thing that a lot of people call us and say, okay, I want to renew my car, I have lost, or I want to link my card with my kid's car or wherever. And it depends on the type of request. They must go to, maybe can do it online, but if not, they must go to one a service point or another. So what we are going to do with our app in our web is from the voice of the customers, they are going to explain what they want to do. Then we are going to analyze this and we are going to match with the position. Maybe they can say, okay, I'm here, or I am living in this municipality, or in this neighborhood in Barcelona, or in this address. Or if not, we can analyze if they are using their mobile phone by GPS, and then we are going to suggest which will be the customer service point that match their needs, and what time they can go, and the connection that they can use. So we are expecting to save time in our call center, because it's a very repetitive action with no add value. And so at least we are expecting to save some time from our staff to apply to other more add value activities. And the second use case that we are still implementing, the first one is not ready yet, and the second one is like a virtual mobility assistant. What we have seen that some of our customers, they are not familiar, or they don't understand exactly how to use our road planner. So it's difficult to give your starting point, your final point. So they are going to describe, they say, okay, I'm in, for example, Catalonia Square, a very centric location in Barcelona, and I want to reach the clinic hospital. Tell me how I can reach. And our solution will translate it to our road planner, and then we are going to give by text the solution, and we are going to have in considerations if we have some alterations, some delays. So we are going to give a more close solution for people that could not be familiar with some kind of solutions. For us, it will be available 24/7, multilingual, so it's more close to the citizens' needs. And this is a solution that we are not doing right now with our staff. So you cannot call us to say, okay, I want to go to this, and we are providing this service. But so in this case, we are not going to save staff, but we think that we are getting close to our citizens or passengers' needs, to make it more easy, or more close to a real time solution, or yes, a real time solutions, or a more close solution to their needs. And that's all that I want to share with you. I hope you have considered very interesting our experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Xavier, for that very interesting presentation. And thank you to all our speakers for such rich and insightful presentations. We now have time for a few questions from our audience, about 10 minutes or so. And I see that some questions have already been asked and answered in the Q&A box. Quick note to the attendees once again, if you haven't posted your question yet, please go ahead and drop your questions into the Q&A box. I am going to still pick up a few questions from the Q&A box, even though they have been answered, for our attendees who are probably not watching the webinar, but are just listening to everything that is being said. So I want to build on what Xavier shared right now. And Gemma, this is a question for you. Just based on Xavier's presentation, how are you seeing new technologies like AI, predictive analytics, digital twins? How will they enhance Amsterdam's mobility ecosystem?
Oh, I think we have an AI team in Amsterdam. I think they're working around 10 people. We are thinking that AI really going to help predicting traffic flows, optimize route planning, get a better planning insights in the city. So we really think that AI can make a difference in the future. So we try to really adapt it. It's still a struggle how we going to do it, but I think that in the future we will use it a lot. My assumption is that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Christian, do you have any views, any thoughts to share on AI, predictive analytics, digital twins?
Yeah, thank you. I've also seen that question, and I didn't know how much time we have, so I've already given a short answer, because the question was, what's my perspective on the future of AI and predictive analytics? So, I mean, what I can see, the key players are the local governments, transport operators, but also infrastructure managers, because my current assignment is more on digital twins for infrastructure planning and construction and building information modeling. But I see many actors looking at artificial intelligence methods and how they can improve operations. And at the same time, for instance, we also see further down the road building permits. If you want to automate the building permit process, you could apply AI methods to say, okay, I check whether the geometry is correct as well. And at the same time, for improving customer experience. So that actually may be an interesting research topic, to do a stock taking, what the level of deployment of AI methods already is in actual operations. And it's actually interesting to hear that the city of Amsterdam has a designated AI team. I think I have to do some research whether there are also some German entities having a designated AI team for urban mobility and transport.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. I'm hoping you and Gemma can connect with each other after this webinar and sort of exchange notes there. I'm seeing one question that I would like all three speakers to talk about, and that is the role of public-private collaboration in sort of unlocking better mobility data. So how are you seeing public-private collaboration taking place in each of your areas? Maybe Xavier, we can begin with you here, and if you can tell us about what's happening in Barcelona.
I think I will be very fast. I think it's needed. We need to collaborate because private sector has some I don't know how to say, characteristics that we don't have from the public sector. But sometimes it's very complicated, at least in Barcelona. So we need to work on this because in these situations where the changes are very fast, you need to be on the loop, and you need to be on the loop with the private sector, maybe with a public sector view, because as I mentioned, at least in our strategy, sustainability, legal must be considered. So it's very important for us. But of course, this needed this collaboration between two parts.
Okay, Gemma, thoughts?
So working with private companies is it's like flirting and dating. So you learn to know each other. You start flirting. You want to know more about the company. Then you want to start working together. Then you get struggles, and then you really need to overcome that struggles to get a longer term relationships. And I always mention it should be dating. You go through all the dating phases with your private companies, and it's a struggle sometimes. We're missing stuff, as the city of Amsterdam. We're not really treating those companies always very well, but there's not always the trust from the companies, from the private company side. So it's really a struggle, and we need to really keep talking with each other and go through that process of learning to know each other. And sometimes we are successful, and sometimes we fight. We end up in a fight and a divorce kind of way. You know, I always make the link on dating. Here, it's difficult. It's a challenge.
A challenge. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Kristen, your thoughts on public-private collaborations?
Thank you. I was just answering in parallel. Yeah, I mean, in our experience, that is certainly an important aspect. And for these data sharing aspects, there is this institution. It's called Mobility Data Space. You can also look it up on the internet, and that is an public-private. I think it's an association deliberately trying to avail data. Not on public open data, but on a B2B case, for instance. So I think generally there are two tracks. One is the open data track that is available from our portal. So there anybody can download any transport or infrastructure data. And then a few years ago, there was also out of this private initiative, this mobility data space encouraged. So I think well, I do see a lot of public-private cooperation in terms of data providers, and of course you have differentiations. You may have some data you give to everybody, and some data you only exchange on a bilateral basis.
Okay, interesting. We have already crossed the 1 hour mark, but I have 2 more questions. And if it's okay with the speakers, I would like to go ahead and ask these 2 questions, and requesting the attendees to perhaps post the rest of the questions in the Q&A box. I think the second last question that I have for each of you is that, do you think we are collecting too much data, or not enough data, or the wrong kind? What are you seeing in your cities? I see Gemma smiling. So Gemma, why don't you go first?
I think we collect a lot of data, maybe too much, but there's a data hunger. We want to collect even more. We're putting cameras everywhere, which I sometimes have the question, should we have cameras everywhere? Some people in the city want cameras on every street corner, and I think, why should you do it? You know, you want to have some freedom living in the city. So that's really personal opinion, and I think we do too much. We collect too much. That's my personal opinion.
Kristen, what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think the key point is the motivation for collecting data. So we always try to make a case that, or there are theoretically 2 approaches. One is you collect data for whatever purpose, and then you try to make a use out of it. Or the other approach is you collect data for a specific purpose. And of course, some data you have available anyway. And I understand most cameras on the street are like for security and protection, and maybe not for transport. So, but the bottom line is you always have to have methods to make something out of that data and analytics. So the data as such doesn't help you anything, and you have to make use of that data, and you have to connect it to specific problems or solutions. So be it, for instance, digital planning, then we need data on the bridge, or we need data on the surface. Or if you want to enhance traffic safety, you could say we need data from the cell phones, and then we can send a warning sign or so. So I think in data management and collection, that's always, in a way, a decision or compromise you have to take, because you cannot really analyze all the data. But after all, you need some good analytics. And I think that's really sort of the big, in a way, success of Google, etc., because their success is they have this wide range of different data sources, and they have very shrewd and intelligent analytics to say, okay, we make something usable out of that data. And I think that is also, after all, the model for the transportation side.
Okay. Yeah, interesting viewpoint. Xavier, what's the thought in Barcelona?
Well, I would say that maybe we have a lot of data to match, because sometimes you don't have enough capacity to analyze. It's overwhelming that all the information that we have. I must say that, for example, this example that I explained before about the connection between the PO box of your residence and your first validation, when we asked to have the information of PO box of your residence, say why do you want this information? Because sometimes we must justify why we want to have this information for privacy or whatever. So sometimes say, okay, it's maybe too much, but at the end you can find it, not always. So it's like a division of opinions. This is the current situation, and maybe from our experience that sometimes we don't have enough capacity to analyze all this information. But I don't know if maybe we will need it, this huge amount of information, to fit our AI models. So maybe for us now it's too much, but at the end we will need it, because if not, I don't know how we can train our models. So I would say that a lot of data we have, but maybe it's needed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think the broad sort of understanding is that we are collecting a lot of data. We just need better analytical tools. That takes me to the final question, collecting even more data. If each one of you had unlimited access to any data set globally, what would you want and why?
I think that I'm not thinking about something that I want to have, but I cannot have it.
Mhm.
So, but I can tell you the purpose. I don't want to. We, for example, last year we made a survey among our citizens in the region about new challenges of mobility and new solutions or whatever, and we ask about the data sharing, and people say. I don't wanna share some kind of information with public bodies. So people don't care about sharing information with some private sector, but when you are asking, you will share this information to me that I am the public transport authority and a lot of people say, no, I don't want to share with you. I say, okay, what you are doing right now with private sector, I must. So it was surprising for me. And the message I want to send to the citizens or to our passengers, say, okay, I don't want to know, and I don't want to know nothing about you personal. I want to have your information to plan better, to manage better, and for a common purpose, not to sell you anything or to sell your data. So the purpose is to make a better city, a better metropolitan region, to make a more efficient solution to adapt the needs of the citizens.
Okay, Gemma, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree upon it. And I think that we see a trend that data should become, you as a private person should become in charge of your own data. And you should be the person that decides to share the data with companies or cities. At this moment, now we're sharing everything as a private person. And I think we should really change that way of data sharing. And I think that data should be part of yourself. And then you can be much more careful on what kind of data you ask to people. And now data is everywhere, and I think it's not really good for you as a private person.
Okay, Christian, final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. We also, every once in a while, with specific projects, discuss the data protection issue. And I mean, one group is like technical data. That I think is, in a way, unproblematic anyway. But for the other group, when we, for instance, took photos of pedestrians for traffic observation patterns, there is a proper way around. If you say, okay, you may observe people, but once the camera or once the data leaves the camera locally, you only transmit XYZ coordinates. So there are some ways to say, okay, even if I take a photo, I'm not taking the photo or not transmitting the photo further on, but only sort of a generalized statistical set. So I think that's maybe one strategy to address the data protection issue. You have to generalize it, and you have to sort of reduce it to the technical components so nobody can retrace anybody. And after all, I think what I indicated before, you always have to really communicate the purpose and the use of that data, both for your own like data management, efficiency and economy, but also to, let's say, communicate or convince citizens provide the data. So for instance, if you communicate somebody, we want to improve the bicycle path, if you give us your cell phone sensor, then they're more inclined to participate than you just say, okay, we collect all kinds of data and nobody knows what's getting out of it. So data governance and data management aspects, I think, are very important.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. And that brings us to the end of today's webinar on that note of data management and having better tools to analyze data. I think our next webinar, we would like to focus on more on what are the tools that cities, agencies can use to better analyze the data that is collected. A huge thank you to our speakers, Gemma Schepers, Dr. Christian Schlosser, and Xavier Sanyer Matias for sharing their expertise. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone who joined us from around the world. Your time and interest are greatly appreciated. We'll be sharing the recording and slides with you all shortly. And for more webinars and upcoming conferences, do visit our website at globalmasstransit.net. Until next time, stay well and keep innovating in mobility. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.